So welcome everyone. For those of you that haven't been with me before, I am a trance channel, which means that when I channel, I leave my body and I allow other beings that I already have agreements with to speak through me. And sometimes I blend, which means they'll talk and then like I'll stay in the room, like maybe I'll be like in that corner and I'll stay in the room and I hear what they're saying and they'll talk and then I'll come in and maybe explain or make it earthly, right? Mm-hmm. Ground it, and then they'll talk and then I'll talk and they'll talk and I'll talk. So I never know which one it's going to be until we start. Yeah. Zed is primarily the group of beings that I channel. They are a group of beings on the edges of expansiveness, and there are 4 distinct groups of them, and they're here to help us with the evolution to 5D, about shifting our mental body, our emotional body, and our physical body so that we're prepared for the heaven on earth, which is what 5D is. And so I got cold chills all over my body. And so they're funny. They're irreverent. They will use cuss words if it's appropriate because spirit doesn't think that's bad. It's to get a point across. And they use my language and I cuss. So, they use what they're given. I have limited vocabulary, so, and they'll only talk because what's happening is they're giving information to me in visions, in feelings, in like blocks of thought, like containers. And then my mental capacity and my voice translate that into words. And so when I'm channeling, my eyes are closed. Mm-hmm. Whether I'm still because I do channel when I'm in my body too. Okay. And when my eyes are closed, it's direct information. I'm not having to translate it, right? But I do sessions where I'm also listening, like I hear what they say and then I'm translating it that way. So there's lots of different things. But today we're going to do the trance channeling. Now, Zed thinks teeth are hilarious. Teeth. They think they're the funniest thing in the world because apparently where they are, they don't have teeth. And they've said that in the universes, because they've had members of their group incarnate into every experience in the universe and the universes. And so they all have somebody who is a reference, right? And that ones with teeth are very few. So, and so when they come in, they usually play with my teeth. They do something with my tongue. They'll poke at them because they think they're hysterical. That we have to use teeth. That's usually the weirdest thing we do, right?
But we don't know what else.
They also, a group of them in their reevaluation or recalibration that they offer us is they do toning and sounds. And so they'll offer those. You don't have to take them. But they'll make them as an offering, and if you wish to receive it, you just receive it. But if it doesn't feel good to you or doesn't feel congruent, then you can just say no, and all that goes is like, thank you, energetically. Okay. So don't feel obligated. And what else? The information that they always provide is for a purpose. They're not fluffy. Even though they're funny and silly and irreverent, the information is for a purpose and it's actionable, something that you can take into your experience and start using. And that's kind of my agreement with all the beings that I channel, is that we got to be able to do something with it. I just don't want woo-woo, right? I want something useful. Can y'all think of anything else? No? All right, here we go. And the hands thing is not me, the hands thing is them, so I don't know what that's about. We always like it when she invites us into her body because it's so fluffy in here. It's fluffy and it's soft and it's interesting because where we are, we see things so clearly. And the information to get into these fluffy bodies is difficult. And what we mean is there's a simplicity that you miss by being in this fluffiness, in the sensory experience, because you get distracted by the sensory and you miss the message. And so what we'd like to talk to you about today is understanding the message. So we're going to take you on a journey. So if you would, center yourself in your seating. Connect your feet to the ground. Allow your roots to grow out into your Mother Earth so that she acknowledges you as you acknowledge her. And as you're anchoring your feet, you'll find that you have access to messages from your planet Mother. Messages that you may not have heard before. And we're going to invite you to listen to those messages for the next 3 to 6 days as you move through your experiences and into the fullness of what we're going to share with you. These roots that you've planted into Mother Earth are tentacles of light and tentacles of life. And we want you to understand that everything that you touch, everything that you do, every place that you go, you are leaving tentacles of light and life. And so we would encourage you to be very aware of what it is that you're leaving in those places. Because that light and that energy that you're leaving, that resonance, will impact the plants, the animals, the biological beings, the planet itself, the humans, the birds, the air itself, because the air is also a living being. And so when you're in experiences and situations where there's anger and frustration and resentment, and you leave that space with that anger and frustration and resentment, that resonance has been planted as a seed. And the next being that walks into that area, that room, that spot, will receive the resonance of the seed, because seeds are meant to be planted. And so as you drop seeds along your day and you move through your experience, you are seeding things. And as you're moving into new places, you're walking through other people's seeds. And it's very important for you to understand that the seeds that resonate with you will be activated for you. They will be planted, if you will, in you. And so we encourage you to spend more time than you already do in being present with how you're feeling, how you're expressing, how you're resonating before you enter an experience, during the experience, and then as you're leaving the experience. And what will happen is, as you're being more present and you find yourself in those situations where you have resentment, anger, frustration, irritation, those seeds that you determine, I don't want to seed this here. I don't want the responsibility of seeding this into other people's experience, because that's what you do. And once you make that decision in that moment, I don't want to leave this here, it will give you the opportunity to learn how to resolve things, to resolve emotions, to resolve thoughts, to resolve experiences. Because it's a skill that is sorely lacking on your planet today. And the more that you can do to understand the resolution, the more you're able to be empowered to move forward. Because each seed that you plant is still connecting energetically with you. And so as you move along, you have all these seeds planted all over your city, all over your town, all over your country, wherever it is that you go. And those seeds still have a resonant connection to you, if they still resonate for you. So if you've been planting love everywhere you go, then your resonance is going to be filled and fueled with love. But if you're planting judgment or restriction or self-deprecation or lack or shoulds, those also are going to be resonating for you in your experience. They're going to be activated. They're going to be turned on. And so your life is going to be an example of the seeds that you have been planting for all the time that you've been on the planet. And so we hear some of you go, oops, because there are seeds maybe you've planted that you would rather not have. And so what we would like to do is take you on this journey so that we can dig up the seeds that no longer serve and plant seeds that you would prefer. Would you like to join us on that journey?
Yes. Mm-hmm.
All right. So what we will do is we will ask you to connect in to the roots. And as you connect into the roots that grow out of your feet and into your earth mother. Pay attention to any aspects that are calling your attention. If there are thoughts or emotions that come up, if there are memories, if there are any areas that do not contain roots, maybe there's a block or a restriction there, we encourage you to acknowledge those spaces. And then bring those spaces into your awareness. And you're not required to identify them anymore. That's an old paradigm. You've only to acknowledge that they exist and then give them permission to be complete. So we would encourage you to allow them to just come up, be acknowledged, and to be released. So let us travel as far back into this earthly experience as you can manage. Follow that yellow brick road back to earlier times. To your youngest memory. And at this youngest memory, be present with this young version of yourself. Surround her with your love. And ask her to show you the seeds that she's planted. And you'll see them all like a giant lighted board before you. All the seeds that have been planted. And there are going to be some seeds that are dark, are murky. And there'll be other seeds that are full of light. They may be white or blue or any color. Some of them will even hum or make sounds. And as you acknowledge these seeds, call forth all the seeds that are dark or murky. And have them stand before you. They may state their name. They may give you a resonance. And as we've taught in previous lessons, thank them for their service. and say goodbye. And allow them to be transmuted into divine love. And as that occurs, you'll see those spaces that were murky or dark. Those seeds now are going to be pulsing with new life. And dear ones, it is as simple as that. There were times on your planet where it needed to be more complicated, where it needed to be more deeply felt, deeply expressed, deeply traumatic, even dramatic. But those times are no longer necessary, because as you're moving out of the third dimension through the fourth dimension, which is where your thoughts and emotions are, you're moving into the fifth dimension where there is only knowledge and wisdom. And so that means that clarity can come in an instant. And once that clarity comes in that instant, there is the resolution. So the need to dig through an experience is no longer required. Though you can choose to do that process if it feels supportive for you. If you need to go through that, you're welcome. But it is not going to serve you to do that for every little thing, for every experience, for every argument, for every misunderstanding. Because as you're moving into the fifth dimension, your heart understands where you were, where your thoughts were, what your intention was. And your heart does not operate with the limitations of time. And so going back in the past or going forward in the future or being present today are all the same for your heart. And so in that instant that there's forgiveness offered, that forgiveness is received and the circuit is completed. For we've talked in months past about the circuit and how everything needs to close and complete in order for it to be nourished, fulfilled, expansive, harmonious. And so we really want you to understand today that it simply can be acknowledgement and completion. Now we want to move on and talk about this soul space. Tamalla, when she does her work, she spends a great deal of time in the soul space. And it lives in this space in the body where the ribs come together, as is taught by numerous people on the planet, because it is true. And this soul space is the place in this fluffy body where all divinity lives. And what we mean is this space of the soul is connected to all the light that has ever existed and that will ever exist. And so when you're having experiences that you don't prefer, whether they're with another person, whether you're alone and you're having it in your head or in your emotions, we really want you to tap into this soul space, because it is the space of light that can change everything in an instant. So let us go in and practice this soul space, for we want you to understand. We have new people present who've not done the process. And so what happens is you go into the space of your heart, which is completely distinct from the place of your head. The head contains the thoughts. It contains the memories. It contains the future expectations. But we want you to leave all of that and move into the space of the heart, which is the place of divine love, the place of certainty, of surety, of simplicity, and truth. And as you drop down into this space of the heart, you find that there's a movement there. There's a rhythm. And you can allow your body to move with that rhythm. And many of the work that Tamalla does involves this space. And we'll not spend a whole lot of time here today because that's done in other areas. But we want you to acknowledge that this space exists. It's real, it's true, it's useful, and it's productive. And this is how you get into your soul space, because you must come to your heart space first. And then in the bottom of that heart space, there's a door. And you can open that door and drop down into the soul space. And in that soul space is eternity. It is infinity. It is the light beyond light, the wisdom beyond wisdom. It is the all that is and the all that ever will be. And you forget that you're connected to that. And it is our desire in this moment that you connect with your connection. And so, as you stand in your soul space, look around and see the super highway of connections that lead from your past to your future, from your present, in all directions, from the connections to other people, to other places, to other experiences. And notice how some of those pathways are curved and twisted, and some are tangled, and some are straight. And some go up and some go down. For these are the paths of your life. And if you find any of those paths that are twisted or gnarly or knotted or otherwise feel restrictive to you, walk over to that space. And you can place your hand on that path and hear very clearly as an observer,
You need this no more. I allow this to be resolved. You may have feelings. Allow them to come up, to be released and transmuted to divine love. You may have thoughts or memories. Allow them to be okay. Forgive all that needs forgiving. And acknowledge that it is the past. It is done. It is over. And from this moment, it is complete. Now let's go to the second place that is knotted up or confused. And place your hand upon it and resolve it as the divine being that you are. From this space of your divine power, acknowledge that all is good. For there are no bad choices. There are only experiences. And those of us who are not in a body, who are here to help you with all that you have experienced and will experience in your daily life, in the evolution to 5D, we want you to understand that your power is in your understanding and your ability to acknowledge that what is past, and what is future, and your only responsibility is what is now. And as you move through your forever nows, you'll find yourself in those situations where there's conflict or fear or unforgiveness or judgment, whether it's by you or by another being. And if you're in present with the now, you'll have the understanding that I don't want to plant that seed here when I leave. And so in that now, you'll be able to go into this soul space because you're already in that present moment, and you're bringing that space of infinite possibilities. And you can say, I don't want to plant this seed here. What can I offer instead? What can I plant instead? And we want to advise that many of you are going to choose divine love, and that divine love is going to present for you out of your habit, out of your programming. That divine love needs to express itself as you being the scapegoat, or you taking the blame or the responsibility for the situation. And we want to be very clear with you that that is not divine love. That is a contamination of divine love. And so instead, we would like to reorient you to the idea or the concept that divine love is divine truth. And so when you're in those situations of disagreement or judgment, or where you want to leave a positive seed, but you feel that the only way to do that is for you to take the blame or the responsibility when it wasn't really you, or it was only partially you. In that moment, if you can insert the idea or the words even, can we end this with love? Or can we end this with compassion? Or can we end this with the idea that we disagree but we're both valuable? And saying those words will actually change the frequency or the vibration of the conversation. Because if someone who is present, who is in conflict with you, and you've acknowledged that in your own resonance that you're fixing to plant a seed that you do not wish to plant, then your energy has been taken away from the conflict and into, I've decided I want this to change. And so their resistance is going to be less, because as you're conflicting with one another, your energies with one another are pushing against each other. They're warring against each other. And so what we would say is, when that situation of warring occurs with the energy, when you stop the warring and you come into yourself and you decide, I want this to be different, I don't wish to plant this seed, your energy is removed. So they stop pushing, and instead they go. And if you can insert in that moment when they are back, surprised, released, relieved, if you can insert into that moment, I would like to end this with compassion. I would like to acknowledge that we're both valuable. I would like to end this saying that I love you. I would like to complete this with the idea that we are both important. Then the seed that you leave that experience with is planted in each of you, that each of you are important, or that you're loved, or that you're valuable. And the seed that you've planted in that space, that third dimensional space, for the next people who wander through that space, is that they also are valuable, or important, or loved. Do you understand? What did you think of your journey?
Powerful.
Was it simple to find the murky lights and to change them?
Yes.
It is that simple. Others, what did you think of your journey?
I trust that those lights are changed, even though I didn't process them in the old ways.
It's a new paradigm. It's a new concept, yes?
Yeah.
And the others in the room have been with us for the extended journey, so it may be easier for them.
And complete this need for complete, this, it's not really a need, it's almost like a universal law heading towards completion is something I'm feeling into right now.
It's closing the circuit. And we've taught on that in the past. It's an imperative. And you're feeling that.
And aligning with it. Whoa.
Even better.
Because it really feels strong. Yeah.
Any other comments?
So when we plant seeds, are we planting those seeds for others as they come upon us, or is it for us to revisit those seeds? What is the purpose for? I understand that the concept is to be energetically responsible and to leave those energetic imprints as positive and divine love. But is there something else, or another message, or another reason, or a way that we would experience them again, or is it specifically for others to pick up that resonance?
It's a wonderful question. And we will say that you're planting seeds all the time.
Mm-hmm.
And so when you're becoming aware of you're planting the seeds, you're planting them for yourself because you're taking the connection of that seed with you when you go. So you already maintain the connection with that seed. If you happen to come back into that space, you're also going to get the resurgence of that seed, that re-acknowledgement of that seed. So you can benefit as well. And other people who walk through it can benefit as well. But the primary reason, and you're not going to like this because most of you who are in a body think that it is you that are on of the body that are most important on the planet. But you're not. The planet is the one that is benefiting the most. Because as beings who are in a body come and go, the earth remains. And while she has been through this very traumatic process of having beings living on her skin, who are draining her lifeblood, who are contaminating her waters, who are doing things that are hurtful for her, the seeds that you plant in positivity, in divine love, in resolution, in completion, they're being planted into the earth as completion and resolution. Because she is also evolving as you are. And we are bringing her with us into 5D. And we say we because there are millions and millions, and we would even use the word billions, of beings of light who are surrounding this planet at all times that are helping the evolution into 5D. And as that evolution continues to become closer and more real and more enlivened, the experiences in the Earth's body become more loud, become more vibrant, because she also has to clean all of the contaminations in her body. And if left alone, she could do it on her own. But there are the beings and the corporations and the entities that are messing with her. But there are also the planting of the seeds by the individual people. And so as you're healing seeds, correcting seeds, planting new seeds, you're seeding in the opportunity for your Earth Mother to be healed as well. And as she is healed, the beings who stand upon her become healed, because then like attracts like. And we've spoken to you in the past about there are beings on the planet that are for the evolution, and there are beings on the planet who are against the evolution. And as you are planting the seeds of light and love and completion and resolution, when those beings who are on the planet against the evolution come into those spaces, they have the opportunity to either flee from those spaces or to be transformed. And so it's also an opportunity for those who may not have the light to choose the light. And we also desire that as well. For every being is always continuously at choice. And it is our desire, and all of the desire of the beings of light who are helping this planet, and even those who are elsewhere, for all those beings who want to choose light, that they have the opportunity. And so that may be a much more complicated answer to your question than you expected, but it is the truth.
Can our seeds have an impact on corporations, or only through the beings who are part of the corporations?
That is also a wonderful question. Corporations and business entities have life too. And so you can plant your seeds. And what will happen is the resonances of the seeds are what determine what is allowed and what is not allowed. And for instance, there is a heritage of native tribes, native beings on the planet who have been abused and taken advantage of, stripped of their lands, and their lands stripped. And because that resonance is so strong and so deep, it is easy for the corporations to manipulate the laws, to change the opinions so that they can adulterate and ravish the lands of those areas. And those lands get polluted, there are oil spills, there are leaks and contaminations into waterways, and so forth. And that's because the resonance in those areas has been predominantly that of being ravaged, being taken advantage of, being abused. And therefore the abuse continues by corporations who respond to that. They're allowed to. The energetic resonance is there and available. And so as you begin to plant your seeds, and we don't want to use the word correct them, but it's a word that you understand. As you change the seeds, as you plant the new seeds, as those new seeds become the primary resonance, because all you need to change a resonance is 50% plus 1, because then it tips. There's more, and the strongest paradigm wins. And so what that means is, as you're planting your seeds, if you're planting your seeds in certain areas, if you're planting your seeds about certain things, once there's enough of those seeds planted that tip the resonance over to that 50% plus 1, then the energy will shift. Then everything that is influencing or being influenced by that will shift. And that includes people, it includes animals, it includes buildings and structures and roadways, it includes businesses and corporations, it includes politicians, it includes religions, it includes everything, because the strongest paradigm will win. And so that's how we are all changing systems and processes right now, because there's much political upheaval on your planet, and all of this upheaval is all due to the raising of the vibration, because as people are planting their seeds of goodness, the things that are not goodness are coming up. They're being pushed up, they're being forced out because they don't resonate with the goodness. And so they're being brought to the surface so that they can be acknowledged, and other people can choose to plant their seeds of goodness. No, I don't choose that. No, I don't choose that. This is what I do choose. I choose love. I choose acceptance. I choose prosperity for all. I choose health for all. I choose clean water. I choose clean air. I choose valuing every being. And because that is the response that's given by the ugliness. And so as those seeds are planted, that ugliness either flees or it's able to be transmuted and transformed if it chooses. Now, many of your corporations, your business people, your politicians, your people of power are going to struggle and fight against this process, because they have a certain understanding and a certain attachment to how they've done things and how they choose to do things in the future. But all you need is 50% plus 1, and they will change. You'll see their corporations change, because suddenly there's an opportunity for light, and those corporations and companies have beings who work in them that are scientists, that are inventors, that are innovators, and they will create things that work with the new resonance. But it has to be offered to them through the planting of the seeds first. Is that helpful?
Very helpful.
We're feeling very good about today's message.
Yes.
Are there any other questions?
I have a comment. It may evolve into a question, but I'm really captured by this concept of the ever-present now. And, and the seeds that we're planting in this now, and how the responsibility we have is to this now. And I'm aware of a pattern that I've had in the past of sometimes being concerned about how others are perceiving me, and a almost, I would say, sort of mental gymnastics of trying to present myself, my statement, my message in the clearest way possible to anticipate any negativity, if you will, coming at me. So I guess my comment is, when I plant the seed and the intention, if there is a conflict, I wish to complete this in love and honoring each of us for our value and worth, that then when I step away from that, I'm aware of that too is a new now. And how am I maintaining myself and not going into my head about how is what I just planted and stated being perceived, and do I need to go back, revisit, restate, prepare for whatever. So I just wanted to put that out and see if there was any comment about that.
Yes, and that's beautiful, beautiful imagery that you gave us for that, because we saw those experiences in your life where you have that. And so what we would say is what you're doing when you're preparing is you're putting on your full suit of armor and you're getting all your weapons together. That's really what you're doing energetically. And so what that means is you're preparing for battle. And so battle will be given to you. And so when you're in the battle and you're having the battle and you're speaking your truth, but you're speaking your truth from don't mess with me energy, right? We want it. We want this clear. We want this perfected and understood. We have an agenda here that we want it to be full of love and joy and cooperation. Even the energies of love and joy and cooperation can be used as weapons or in a warring energy, because when you're putting on your suit of armor and you are shouting at someone, I love you, they may not have the resonance of I love you. You understand?
Yes.
And so what we would say that when you're in those situations, when you have your armor on, look at the seed that you're planting of, oh, I'm prepared to do battle, so I'm likely planting a battle seed. What kind of seed would I rather have? And if you can say, and we'll follow this through with you, is if you can say instead, I would like to plant the seed of cooperation. And so if I'm planting the seed of cooperation, I'm not going to put on a full suit of armor. What am I going to do if I'm going to plant a seed of cooperation? And then consider what that means to you. Because it will be different for different people. It will be different for different experiences. And so as you're planting your seed of cooperation, right, whatever it is that you decide that means for you, and you take that action, what happens is when you're communicating or interfacing with the other people, it's no longer a battle because it's entirely about cooperation. And so they don't have an opportunity to do anything but cooperate because it's the only resonance that's presented to them. Now, many will try to battle against cooperation if that is the standard pattern of behavior, right? If they're accustomed to you coming in your full suit of armor, then they're likely coming with their full suit of armor, right? And so when you first start planting your seeds of cooperation, you may find that they're still wearing their armor. But you are not going to be the doormat. You're going to offer, I would like to end this in cooperation.
Yes.
And did you feel the resonance that we had at the end of that? It had a period.
Mm-hmm.
It was not up for discussion or negotiation or continued aggravation or frustration. There was a period. We would like to end this in cooperation. And then move along. And what will happen is as you're learning this new seed planting technique, those people that you've been around in the past who are accustomed to warring with you or negotiating with you or attempting to control you or manipulate you or do the things that other humans try to do to each other. When you're putting your period on, there's nothing after that. There are no yeah buts. Yes, but. There are no but. I wish to end this in cooperation. And there's nothing that needs to be discussed after that, because what happens if you go, I wish to end this in cooperation, and the other party says, I want to cooperate too, but you're not listening to me, and that's not cooperation, is it?
No.
And so what happens is when you say, I want to end this in cooperation, and they go, yes, but, and you go, no. We're just agreeing to cooperate. We're not discussing this anymore. There's nothing to discuss because we both want to cooperate. So we're going to leave this moment planting the seed of cooperation, and we're both going to go on our way. And when we've each come up with a cooperation, we can revisit. Because there's no reason to continue the conversation in that moment. Because if you've not practiced the skill, one or both of you may not understand what that cooperation wants to look like for you. That's going to be most supportive for you. So that's why it's a period. You understand?
Yeah, that's wonderful.
And it requires some coaching or training of others that are in your experience because it's new. But that coaching comes from your putting your period on it. It's a practice. It's a new skill.
Excellent. Thank you.
You're welcome. Is there more?
I have a seed I would like to work with. It's a seed that I realize I plant about when you spoke of the native peoples. I have a lot of grief about that.
The one speaking has an enormous amount of grief for that, for she has been there in the past, as you have.
And I see that that is perpetuating something, and the way I carry it, perhaps the way I'm leading it, is perpetuating that dynamic that you spoke of victim. And I have anger, I have grief, I think those guilt, and I want to change that. And this would be a great opportunity for me to see how can I want to end this differently.
Wonderful. So are you willing to bring those feelings forward?
Oh, they're right here. They're grabbing me.
So have them stand before you.
Yes.
And say, I acknowledge you as being real.
I acknowledge you as being real.
I validate your experience.
Yes, I validate your experience.
And I also validate that that's not going to serve us anymore.
Yes, it's not going to serve us.
And so I ask that you acknowledge
I ask that you acknowledge
that it's time to complete this cycle.
that it's time to complete this cycle.
Thank you for your service.
Thank you. Thank you for your service.
I don't need you anymore.
I don't need you.
I choose empowerment
I choose empowerment
for the Native peoples
for the native people
land
and the land
and the water,
and the water.
and I forgive all that's gone before,
I forgive all that's gone before,
myself and others.
myself and others.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Goodbye.
Thank you so much.
Now decide what you'd like to fill those spaces with, because
Yeah.
because if you do not choose, they'll come right back. So let's plant some empowerment in there, some encouragement, some enthusiasm, some delight, some wisdom. What?
Equality.
Yes. Balance.
Yes.
Honor. Integrity. Helpfulness.
Respect. Yes. I embrace that.
To plant those seeds. Anytime those emotions and thoughts try to come back, because they will, because they're a habit.
Yes.
So what you'll want to do in your mental and emotional discipline is to plant those new seeds. And if, like the one speaking does, she physically will go, nope, I'm pulling that one out and I'm planting this one.
Good.
Because it helps her do the action. It's a removing, transmute it to love, plant what she prefers. Because it helps her ground the reality and the truth of what this process is. We're removing, and what she says, she removes the shit she doesn't want, and she plants the shit she does want.
Yes.
Because this shit is fertilizer, and it's nourishment, and this stuff was just junking up the works.
Yeah.
And so the old stuff gets transmuted to love, and the new stuff is fertilizer for what she's growing. And it can be as simple and silly as that, but it works.
I can feel it in my voice. I can speak about it. Thank you.
You're welcome. Is there more? We'd like to offer a blessing of sound to you to end our connection and communion with you today. May it bless the seeds that you plant. May it nourish your bodies. May it nourish your minds. May it nourish your emotions, and may your fluffy bodies receive it in love. We offer you the blessings of all the beloveds that adore your planet, that encourage and encircle you in their arms of love and light. We acknowledge you. We validate you. And we welcome you into the seed planting union of light. We'll see you again.